There are days that change everything. Days you carry with you like an invisible scar, one that aches every time it rains, or whenever someone mentions the word pride. For me, that day was a Friday in May, my son's graduation day. My name is Isabella Miller. I'm 55 years old, and this is the story I kept silent for months until I understood that silence has its own price. I got up early that morning. I made coffee with cinnamon the way I always did when I wanted the house to smell like a celebration. I put on the navy blue dress I'd bought 3 months earlier with long sleeves and a silver brooch my mother gave me when I graduated college. I wanted to look good. I wanted my son to be proud. But I didn't know that pride wasn't meant for me. When we arrived at the university auditorium, it was packed with excited families. Gold balloons, black gowns, nervous laughter. I looked for Ryan in the crowd. My son. My only son. I saw him near the back adjusting his cap. I walked over with a smile that hurt my chest because something in his eyes already warned me that things weren't right. "Honey, we're here." Ryan looked at me, and in that instant his eyes hardened. "Mom, I need to talk to you." My heart stopped. "What's wrong, sweetie?" He took a deep breath. He glanced back where his wife Valerie was standing with her mother, Mrs. Beatrice, an elegant, perfumed woman, always wearing a pearl necklace and a polite smile. "Mom, Valerie and I decided," he hesitated. "Her mom is going to walk on stage with me." I didn't understand. "What?" "Yeah, Mom. It's just, she paid for part of the tuition last semester. And Valerie thinks it would be fair if—" He didn't finish the sentence, but I understood everything. "And me, Ryan." He looked down. "Mom, you embarrass me." Those words hit like stones. "What did you say?" "It's just, look at how you're dressed. Beatrice looks more elegant, more presentable. And you look like you're from another time. I don't want my classmates to think—" He stopped talking because I was no longer listening. I just stood there, the silver brooch shining under the auditorium lights, feeling how everything I had built with my own hands, with my sleepless nights, with my double shifts, was crumbling in a single sentence. Ryan left. Valerie took his arm. Mrs. Beatrice shot me a look that needed no words, and I was left alone watching my son walk toward the stage on another woman's arm, and everyone applauded. Before everything broke, there were good days, days that seem like another life now. Ryan was born in September, a rainy day when the city streets smelled like wet earth and hope. I was 23. I was young but not stupid. I knew being a single mother in this country wasn't going to be easy. His father left before he was born. He said he wasn't ready, that he had plans, that I was too intense. He never came back. Not even when I sent him a picture of the baby with his first tooth. So it was me. It was always me. I remember the mornings in our little 2-bedroom apartment in a working-class neighborhood. Ryan would wake up with the sun, and I already had his breakfast ready. Eggs toast and fresh squeezed orange juice. While he ate, I would iron his school uniform. That navy blue uniform I washed every single night so it always looked pristine. "Mommy, when I grow up, I'm going to buy you a big house," he'd say with his mouth full. "I don't need a big house, sweetie. As long as I have you, I have enough." And it was true. I worked every job I could. I was a secretary, a salesperson, a tutor. Sometimes I'd come home so tired I'd fall asleep with my shoes still on, but every penny I earned went straight to his education. I wanted Ryan to have what I never had, opportunities. I enrolled him in a private school, not the most expensive one, but a good one. Ryan was smart. He got good grades. The teachers always told me, "Mrs. Miller, your son has a bright future." And I believed them. On Sundays, we'd go to the park. We'd buy corn cobs with chili and lime. We'd sit on a bench under the trees, and he'd tell me his dreams. He wanted to be an engineer, have a red car, travel the world. "And am I coming with you on those trips?" I'd ask. "Of course, Mommy. You're always coming with me." Those words were my fuel. When he turned 15, I gave him a used bicycle I had fixed up with my own hands. It wasn't new, but it worked. Ryan cried when he saw it. "Thank you, Mommy. You're the best mom in the world." I held on to that memory like a treasure, because back then, he still saw me. He still valued me. He wasn't ashamed of me yet. When he got into college, I worked double shifts to pay his tuition. I'd get up at 5 in the morning and get home at 11 at night. My hands smelled like bleach and exhaustion. But every time I saw him studying at the kitchen table, books open, coffee steaming, I felt it was all worth it. Until he met Valerie. She came from money. Her father was in business. Her mother organized charity events. They lived in a house with a garden and a swimming pool. Ryan started spending more time with them than with me. At first I didn't worry. I thought it was normal. A young man needs to expand his world. But slowly something changed. Ryan started to look at me differently, as if suddenly my simple clothes, my way of speaking, my small apartment, embarrassed him. The first sign was subtle. One day he said, "Mom, when you come to visit me on campus, can you not bring that old bag?" I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Which bag, honey?" "That cloth tote bag you always use. It looks dated." I didn't say anything, but something inside me cracked. That night I put the bag in the back of my closet, and with it I put away a piece of my pride. Things don't break all at once. They crack slowly, with fissures so small you don't even see them at first. After that comment about my bag, I started noticing more signs, small, almost invisible, but they were there. Ryan stopped inviting me to university events. Before, if there was a conference or a festival, he'd call me excited. "Mom, come, I want you to see what we're doing." Now when I asked, he always had an excuse. Mom, it's going to be really boring, just technical stuff." Or, "There aren't many seats and I already invited Valerie and her parents." I would nod, I'd smile, I'd say it was no problem, but inside something was fading. One Saturday, I decided to surprise him. I made his favorite meal: chicken tinga, red rice refried beans, and handmade tortillas. I packed it all in containers and went to his apartment, the one he shared with 2 roommates near the university. I knocked on the door. Ryan opened it. When he saw me standing there, my bag full of food, his face changed. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I brought you food, sweetie. I know you haven't had time to cook." He looked over his shoulder, nervous. It's not a good time right now." "Why do you have company?" "Yes, Valerie is here, and her parents." My heart tightened. "Oh, well, I can share with them. I brought enough for everyone." "No, Mom, they already ate. And besides," he paused, searching for the words. "Look, let's just see each other another day, okay?" He took the containers from my hands, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and closed the door. I just stood there in the hallway. I could hear the laughter coming from inside, laughter that didn't include me. I walked back to the subway with a lump in my throat. The whole way home, I kept telling myself it was nothing, that Ryan was just busy, that I was overreacting. But deep down, I already knew. My son was slipping away. Months passed. Ryan visited me less and less. When he did, it was quick. He'd have a coffee, ask how I was, check his phone, and leave. "Sorry, Mom, I gotta go. Valerie's waiting for me." Always Valerie. One day he called to invite me to dinner. I was so excited I couldn't sleep the night before. I got dressed with care, the dress I saved for special occasions, my silver earrings, the brooch my mother gave me. I got to the restaurant. It was an elegant place, white tablecloths and candles on the tables. Ryan was sitting with Valerie and her parents. When I approached, Mrs. Beatrice looked me up and down. "Ah, you must be Isabella," she said with a cold smile. "Ryan has told us so much about you." I don't know why, but I felt that sentence had a hidden sting. During dinner, they talked about trips, about investments, about restaurants in Europe. I didn't know any of those places, so I kept quiet. I ate slowly, trying not to make noise with my silverware. At one point, Valerie's father asked, "Isabella, what do you do for a living?" "I clean offices." I answered honestly, and I also tutor on the side. There was an awkward silence. Mrs. Beatrice smiled with pity. "How admirable! It's so hard to get by alone, isn't it?" Ryan gripped his wine glass. He didn't defend me. He said nothing. That night when I left, he walked me to the restaurant door. "Thanks for coming, Mom." "Of course, honey. I'll always come when you invite me." He hesitated for a moment. "Mom, do you think you could, buy some more modern clothes?" I froze. "What?" "It's just sometimes people judge you by how you look, and I don't want them to think badly of you. Not of me, of him." That night, I cried on the subway, my face hidden in my hands. I felt the crack getting wider. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. There's one thing you learn when you're a mother. You learn to swallow your pride, to stay quiet when you want to scream, to smile when your soul is aching, because you think that if you complain, if you demand, if you say what you feel, you'll lose the only thing you have left. And I couldn't lose my son. So I did what I had always done. I adapted. I made myself small. I became invisible. After that awkward dinner with Valerie's family, I decided I had to change. Not because I wanted to, but because I thought it would make Ryan feel proud of me again. I went to a clothing store downtown. I didn't have much money, but I saved for 2 months to buy a new dress. A modern one, as Ryan had suggested. It was wine-colored with a tighter cut. Nothing like the loose, discreet dresses I usually wore. When I tried it on in the store's mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked different. I don't know if it was better, just different. The saleswoman smiled. "You look very elegant, ma'am." But I didn't feel elegant. I felt like I was in a costume. I bought the dress. I also bought high heels that hurt my feet, and a purse that wasn't cloth but a shiny synthetic leather that made a noise when I moved. I thought, this is it. Now Ryan won't be ashamed. The next time we saw each other was at his graduation. Well, not exactly his graduation. That was still 3 months away. It was a pre-graduation event, an award ceremony. Ryan invited me. He gave me the date 2 weeks in advance. I was so excited I marked the day on my calendar with a red heart. That day I got ready early. I put on the new dress, the new shoes, the new purse. I put on a little makeup, which I almost never did. I even bought lipstick at the drugstore. I got to the university auditorium half an hour early. I wanted to get a good seat to see Ryan receive his award, but when I walked in, I looked for my son, and I saw him. He was sitting in the front row, with Valerie, with Mrs. Beatrice, and with Mr. Arthur, Valerie's father. I walked over. I smiled. "Hi, honey." Ryan looked up. He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw something that hurt more than any word. Disappointment. "Mom, I thought you were coming later." "Why, you told me it was at 6. "Yeah, but—" He looked at Valerie, uncomfortable. "It's just, these seats are for the graduate's immediate family, and there's no more space." "What do you mean, no space? I'm your mother," Mrs. Beatrice chimed in with that soft but sharp voice she always used. "Isabella, dear, the university only gave out 4 passes per student, and since we helped with Ryan's tuition this past year, he gave the passes to us." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. "Ryan," he wouldn't look at me. "Mom, please, don't make a scene. You can watch the ceremony from outside. They have screens." "But I'm your mother." "I know. But they did a lot for me too." I stayed quiet. Because if I had said one more word, I would have broken down right there in front of everyone. So I nodded, I smiled, and I went to watch the ceremony from outside, standing, with other people who also couldn't get in. I watched my son receive his award on a screen. I watched him hug Valerie. I watched him pose for photos with her family. And I was outside, in my new dress, in my shoes that hurt, with my shiny purse that didn't make me feel any less invisible. That night when I got back to my apartment, I took off the dress, the shoes, the purse. I buried them in the back of the closet, and I put on my old clothes. The clothes Ryan said made me look dated. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea in my hands, and I wondered, at what point did I stop being enough weeks went by? Ryan barely called. I didn't call him either because I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be that clingy, dramatic mother who demands attention, so I waited. I waited for him to look for me, to need me, to remember who had always been there. But the calls didn't come. Instead, an invitation arrived, a formal invitation printed on thick paper with gold letters. "Ryan Miller and Valerie Smith request the honor of your presence at their graduation ceremony." I cried when I saw it, not from sadness, from relief. I thought, he still wants me there. I still count. I didn't know that ceremony was going to change everything. As I tell this story, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Secrets have weight, and when someone is hiding something from you, even if you can't see it, you can feel it. You feel it in the air, in the words they don't say, in the looks they avoid. I felt it, but I didn't want to see it. After I got the graduation invitation, I decided that day was going to be different. It was going to be perfect. Finally, Ryan would see me in the front row, clapping proud of him, and he would remember everything we had been through together. I saved every dollar I could for 2 months. I worked extra hours cleaning offices. I took on more tutoring students. My hands were red and cracked, but I didn't care. I wanted to buy my son a special gift. I went to a jewelry store downtown. I had seen a steel watch, elegant but not flashy, with gold hands, the kind of watch a newly graduated engineer would wear to his first job. It cost $320. It was almost everything I had saved, but I bought it. I had it engraved on the back. To Ryan with all my pride, "Mom." When I went to pick it up, I held it in my hands like a treasure. I imagined his face when he saw it. I imagined his hug. I imagined him saying, "Thanks, Mom. I knew I could always count on you." But 2 weeks before graduation, something changed. I went to visit Ryan without calling first. I know. I should have called. But I wanted to surprise him. I wanted to bring him tamales I'd bought at the market, the ones he loved since he was a kid. I knocked on his apartment door. I heard voices inside, laughter, low music. Ryan opened it. When he saw me, his face tensed up. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I brought you tamales, sweetie. Can I come in?" He hesitated. He looked back. "It's just, I'm busy right now. Just for a minute, honey. I want to say hi." He sighed. He opened the door just enough for me to squeeze in. Inside were Valerie, Mrs. Beatrice, and 2 other people I didn't know. They were looking at papers spread all over the table, lists, numbers, names. "Hello?" I said timidly. Mrs. Beatrice looked up. "Oh, Isabella, what a surprise." It did not sound like a pleasant surprise. Valerie quickly gathered some of the papers from the table, as if she didn't want me to see them. "We were just organizing the graduation details," she said with a forced smile. "Oh, that's nice," I replied. "Do you need any help?" An uncomfortable silence. "No, Mom," Ryan said. "It's all under control." "Well, if you need anything, I can—" "Mom, really, it's all set, thanks." I just stood there, feeling the air get heavier. I left the tamales on the kitchen counter. "I left them there in case you want to eat later." "Thanks, Mom. I'll call you later, okay?" He walked me to the door, gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, and closed it. But just before the door shut completely, I heard Mrs. Beatrice's voice. "Have you told her yet?" And Ryan's voice low and nervous. "Not yet. I'm going to do it on graduation day." I didn't hear any more, but those words stuck in me like splinters. "Tell me what?" For the next few days, that question kept me awake. I tried calling Ryan several times. He didn't answer. I sent him messages. The replies were short, cold. "I'm busy, Mom. I'll see you Friday at graduation." Everything is fine, but I knew everything was not fine. One afternoon, I was cleaning an office when I found a society magazine someone had left in the waiting room. I opened it distractedly, just to pass the time while I waited for the floor to dry. And then I saw it. A photograph, full color, in the social events section. It was Valerie. She was at a gala dinner wearing a long, sparkling dress. And next to her in a black suit and tie was Ryan, my son. The caption read, "Ryan Miller, soon to graduate with honors in engineering, accompanied by his fiancée Valerie Smith and the Smith-Ortega family at the annual charity dinner for the Hands That Build Foundation. Mrs. Beatrice Smith, president of the foundation, highlighted the social commitment of the new generation." I read the text 3 times. Soon to graduate with honors. Honors. Ryan had never told me he was graduating with honors. He had never told me about that dinner. He had never invited me. But that's not what hurt the most. It was the sentence at the end. "The Smith-Ortega family has been a fundamental pillar in the young Mr. Miller's academic formation, covering a significant part of his education in recent years." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I kept the magazine. I finished my shift in silence. I got to my apartment. I sat at the kitchen table, that magazine open in front of me, staring at the picture of my son. My son, whom I had raised alone, whom I had fed, clothed, and educated with the sweat of my brow. And now in a magazine in print for the whole world to read, it said that another family had been his pillar. Not me. Them. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake replaying everything. The signs, the silences, the uncomfortable looks, the words I'd overheard. "Have you told her yet?" "Not yet. I'm going to do it on graduation day." What was it he hadn't told me? Graduation day arrived faster than I expected. I got up early. I showered. I put on the navy blue dress, the one I'd bought 3 months before. I put on my mother's silver brooch. I did my hair carefully, and I put the watch in my purse, the watch I had engraved with so much love. When I got to the university auditorium, the place was full of excited families. I looked for Ryan in the crowd. I saw him at the back, adjusting his cap, nervous. I approached with a smile. "Honey, we're here." Ryan looked at me, and in that instant, I knew something terrible was about to happen. "Mom, I need to talk to you." My heart stopped. "What's wrong, sweetie?" He took a deep breath. He looked back where Valerie and Mrs. Beatrice were. "Mom, Valerie and I decided her mom is going to walk on stage with me." The words fell like stones. "What?" "Yeah, Mom, it's just, she paid for part of the tuition last semester, and Valerie thinks it would be fair if—" "And me, Ryan." He looked down. "Mom, you embarrass me." The world stopped. "What did you say?" "It's just, look at how you're dressed. Beatrice looks more elegant, more presentable. And you look like you're from another time. I don't want my classmates to think—" He didn't finish the sentence, because I was no longer listening. I just stood there, the silver brooch shining under the auditorium lights, feeling how everything I had built was falling apart. Ryan left. Valerie took his arm. Mrs. Beatrice shot me a triumphant look, and I was left alone watching my son walk toward the stage on another woman's arm. And everyone applauded. There are moments in life when time stops, when everything goes silent, even if hundreds of people are talking around you. That was one of those moments. I stood there in the middle of the auditorium aisle, my purse hanging from my arm, feeling the weight of the watch I had bought for my son. The watch engraved with words that no longer made sense. To Ryan, with all my pride. Mom. Pride in what? In a son who was ashamed of me. I watched Ryan walk toward the graduates section on the arm of Mrs. Beatrice. She was wearing a pearl-colored suit, real pearls high heels. She walked with her head held high like she owned the place. And Ryan? Ryan looked at her with something I hadn't seen in his eyes when he looked at me in a long, long time. Admiration. Valerie walked behind them, smiling, taking pictures with her phone. Pictures that would surely end up on social media with captions like, "So proud of my husband and his great achievement. Thank you, Mom, for being part of this dream." But I wasn't in those pictures. I wasn't part of that dream. An older woman sitting near where I stood, frozen, touched my arm. "Are you all right, ma'am?" I blinked. I didn't know if I was all right. I didn't know if I could move. Yes, thank you. "Are you family for one of the graduates?" I swallowed. I'm Ryan Miller's mother," the woman smiled. "Oh, how exciting. You must be so proud." I didn't answer because I didn't know if I was. I sat in one of the chairs at the very back, far from the stage, far from the front row where I was supposed to be. The ceremony began. There were speeches, nice words about effort, dedication, the future. The head of the department spoke about the generation's achievements. He mentioned names, he mentioned projects, and then he said something that made my heart stop. This year, we are proud to have 3 students graduating with honors. Young people who not only excelled academically, but also showed social commitment and leadership. One of them is Ryan Miller. People clapped. I clapped too, but my hands were shaking. Honors. Ryan had never told me. The director continued. Ryan not only maintained an outstanding average throughout his studies, but he also participated in social impact projects, collaborating with the Hands That Build Foundation, led by the distinguished Mrs. Beatrice Smith, who joins us today. Thanks to her support, Ryan was able to complete his education and graduates today as one of the best in his class. More applause. I looked ahead. Mrs. Beatrice stood up from her seat, smiled and waved, as if she was the one who had done all the work, as if she were the mother, and Ryan looked at her, and he smiled at her. I felt something break inside me, something that could never be fixed, because in that moment, I understood the whole truth. It wasn't just that Ryan was ashamed of me. It was that he had built a new story, a story where I didn't exist, a story where Mrs. Beatrice took my place, where my sacrifice, my sleepless nights, my cracked hands, none of it mattered, because I wasn't elegant, because I didn't have money, because I couldn't give him the status he wanted. And then in the middle of all that pain, I remembered something, a conversation I'd had with Ryan when he was 12. We had gone to a park. We sat on a bench. He was eating a vanilla ice cream cone. I watched him just happy I could afford that ice cream with the money I'd earned cleaning houses. "Mommy," he'd said, "when I grow up, I'm going to be really important. I'm going to have a lot of money, and I'm going to buy you a big house with a garden." "I don't need a big house, sweetie," I answered. "As long as I have you, I have enough. But I want people to see you and say, that lady has a successful son." "I already have a successful son. You." He smiled. He hugged me. "I love you, Mommy. I love you too, sweetie. Always." When did those words stop being true? The ceremony continued. They called the graduates in alphabetical order. I watched them one by one walk on stage, get their diploma pose for the photo. And when it was Ryan's turn, the dean called his full name. Ryan Miller. People clapped. Ryan walked onto the stage, but he didn't walk alone. At his side, smiling, walked Mrs. Beatrice, like she was his mother, like I didn't exist. He received his diploma. He posed for the photo. The official photographer took several pictures. Ryan alone. Ryan with the dean, Ryan with Mrs. Beatrice, Ryan with his new mother. From my seat in the back, I took out my phone. I took a blurry, distant photo of my son on the stage. That was the only picture I had of his graduation. When Ryan came down from the stage, he looked for Valerie. He hugged her. He hugged Mr. Arthur. He hugged Mrs. Beatrice. He didn't look for me, and I was still sitting there, invisible. But then something changed. The dean returned to the microphone. He cleared his throat. He smiled. "Before we conclude this ceremony, I want to make a special recognition. Every year, this university presents the Pillar of Education Award to a person who, through their effort, dedication, and sacrifice, has contributed significantly to the formation of our students. This year, that recognition goes to someone very special." My heart was beating slowly. I didn't understand what was happening. The dean continued. "This person worked tirelessly for over 20 years to ensure her son could study. She cleaned offices, she tutored, she sacrificed her own well-being so he could have opportunities. And today we want to honor that unconditional love. Please, let's have a round of applause for Mrs. Isabella Miller." The world stopped. "Isabella, could you please come to the stage?" I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. People started to turn around looking for me. Some began to clap, not even knowing who I was. I stood up slowly, trembling. I walked toward the stage. I felt everyone's eyes on me. I felt the air get heavier with every step. And then I saw their faces. Ryan's face, pale, frozen, his eyes wide as plates. Valerie's face, disbelieving, confused. Mrs. Beatrice's face, hard, furious. I stepped onto the stage. The dean held out his hand. Mrs. Miller, it is an honor for us to recognize your effort. We know from the academic and financial records that you covered the majority of Ryan's education, from elementary school through the 7th semester of university. Your sacrifice should not go unnoticed. He handed me a plaque, gold, with my name engraved on it. The audience applauded, loudly, for a long time, and I, with that plaque in my hands, looked at my son. He wasn't looking at me. His head was down, his hands clenched, his face was pale as wax, because in that moment in front of everyone, the truth had come out. I was the mother who had done everything, not Mrs. Beatrice, me. There are silences that hurt more than screams, silences that weigh like stones on your chest. That was the silence that followed after I stepped down from the stage. I walked slowly, plaque in my hands. I felt everyone's eyes on me. Some smiled at me. Others whispered, but I could only see my son. Ryan was still standing where I'd left him, motionless, his face pale, his fists clenched. Valerie was beside him, her hand on his arm, looking at me with a mix of surprise and, was it respect or pity? I don't know. Mrs. Beatrice, on the other hand, looked at me with pure hatred, the kind of elegant, controlled hatred that women like her have perfected over years, the kind of hatred that doesn't need words. As I passed them to go back to my seat, Mrs. Beatrice muttered, just loud enough for me to hear, "What a pathetic scene!" Looking for attention right up to the last second. I didn't answer her, because if I had opened my mouth, I wouldn't have been able to hold back everything I was carrying. I went back to my seat in the back. The ceremony continued. More speeches, more applause, more photos. But I wasn't there anymore. My body was in that chair, but my mind was somewhere else, remembering, processing, understanding. When the ceremony ended, people started to leave, families hugging, graduates laughing, camera flashes, balloons, flowers, joy everywhere. I stayed seated, waiting. I don't know what I was waiting for. Maybe I expected Ryan to come, to look for me, to say something, anything. But he didn't. I watched him, Valerie, and the Smith family walk out of the auditorium together. They were talking among themselves. Mrs. Beatrice was gesturing with her hands, clearly upset. Ryan just nodded, silent, staring at the floor. They left, and they didn't look back. I sat there for maybe 20 more minutes, until the auditorium was almost empty, until the staff started collecting the chairs, until a woman from the cleaning crew approached me and asked kindly, "Can I help you with anything, ma'am?" "No, thank you. I'm leaving now." I walked out of the auditorium, my plaque under my arm. Outside, families were still celebrating. There was an area with tables and snacks, music, laughter. I looked for Ryan. I found him on the other side of the courtyard, surrounded by people. Friends, classmates, Valerie's family. I walked toward him slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I reached him, everyone went quiet. They looked at me. Ryan looked up. "Mom." "Honey, I need to talk to you." He looked at Valerie. She nodded, uncomfortable. "Sure, Mom. Give me a minute." He excused himself from his friends. We walked to a quiet corner under a large, shady tree. We stood there, not looking at each other. I waited for him to say something first, to explain, to apologize, but he didn't. So I was the one who broke the silence. "Why, Ryan?" He didn't answer. "Why did you do that to me? Why did you say I embarrass you? Why did you let another woman walk on stage with you as if she were your mother?" Ryan closed his eyes. He clenched his jaw. "Mom, please, don't make a scene." "A scene? You think this is a scene?" "Yes, it is. It's always been this way. You're always so intense, so clingy, so needy." His words hit me like fists. "Needy, Ryan? I just wanted to be there for you. Like I've always been." "Exactly. Always. Always there. Always reminding me how much you sacrificed. Always making me feel guilty for everything you did for me." "I never made you feel guilty." "Yes, you did. Every time you looked at me. Every time you talked about how hard you worked. Every time you said, 'I do it all for you, sweetie.' As if I owed you my entire life. Because I gave you my life, Ryan. I gave you my entire life. And that right there, that is exactly what I can't stand." I fell silent. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand how we got to this point. Ryan took a deep breath. He ran a hand through his hair. He looked tired, but not sorry. "Mom, I'm grateful for everything you did. I really am. But I can't carry that anymore. I can't live feeling indebted to you. I need to live my own life. No one asked you to live in debt to me, but I do. I do every time you show up unannounced. Every time you call me 3 times a day. Every time you look at me with those sad eyes as if I'm the only reason you exist. Because you are Ryan. You have been my reason for existing since you were born. And that is the problem, Mom. I don't want to be anyone's reason for existing. It's too much pressure." I felt the tears starting to come, but I held them back. Not yet. And Mrs. Beatrice, she doesn't pressure you. She's different. Different how? She treats me like an adult, like someone with potential, not like a child who needs his food cut for him. I never treated you like a child. Yes, you did, and you still do. To this day, you talk to me like I'm 10. My love, my sky, my life, all the time, in front of my friends, in front of Valerie. It's embarrassing, that word, again. You know what's embarrassing, Ryan? My voice started to break. That I worked for 20 years, day and night, so you could study. That I broke my back, cleaning offices to pay your tuition. That I skipped meals so you could have school supplies. And now on your graduation day, you tell me I embarrass you. Mom, no. Let me finish. You know what else is embarrassing? That you let another woman, a woman who paid for one semester, just one, take my place. That you allowed the world to believe that she was your pillar. When I was the one who was there from day one. She helped me when you couldn't anymore, Mom. When I couldn't. What are you talking about? You didn't have the money for the last year. You know you didn't. I needed to pay the tuition and you had no way. Valerie's family offered to help and I accepted. What did you want me to do? I wanted you to ask me for help first. I wanted you to trust me. I always found a way, Ryan. Always. But I didn't want you to keep sacrificing for me. It was enough. That wasn't your decision to make. Yes, it was. Because it's my life, and I decided to accept their help. And yes, maybe I owe them something now. But I'd rather owe them than keep feeling guilty with you. I was silent. I had no words. Because everything I had believed, everything I had built, everything my life had meant, had just fallen apart. Ryan looked at his watch. Mom, I have to go. We're going to dinner with Valerie's family. We have reservations. And me, he hesitated. Mom, you're not invited. Those words were the final blow. I understand. Don't be angry, please. It's a family dinner. Their family. I'm your family too, Ryan. I know, but not today, Mom. Today, I need to be with them. He stepped closer. He gave me a kiss on the cheek. Quick, cold. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? And he left. I watched him walk away. I watched him rejoin Valerie. I watched him get into an elegant car, the kind I could never afford. I watched him leave, and I stayed there, alone, under that tree, with my gold plaque under my arm, and a watch in my purse that I never gave him. I took out the watch. I looked at it. I read the engraving. To Ryan with all my pride, Mom. And in that moment, something inside me shattered. But it wasn't a loud break. It was quiet, deep, final, because I understood something I had been denying for months. My son didn't need me anymore. And worse, my son didn't want me around. I put the watch back in my purse, I wiped my tears with the back of my hand, and I walked toward the campus exit, alone, as always. But this time something was different. This time I wasn't going to beg for love. I still wonder if I did the right thing by staying quiet that day. What about you? What would you have done in my place? Let me know in the comments. I need to know I'm not crazy for feeling what I feel. There are nights when you can't sleep, not because you're sad, but because something inside you is waking up, something that has been asleep for a very long time. That night was one of those nights. I got back to my apartment after 9. The place was dark, silent, cold, as always. But this time the silence didn't scare me. It didn't make me feel alone. It made me feel free. I left the plaque on the kitchen table. I took the watch out of my purse. I placed it next to the plaque, and I stared at them for a long time. 2 objects, 2 symbols. One represented what I had given, the other what was never received. I sat in the kitchen chair, the same chair where I had drunk thousands of cups of tea, the same chair where I had cried in silence so many times, the same chair where I had planned every sacrifice, every surrender, every effort. And then something changed. It wasn't a clear thought. It wasn't a dramatic revelation. It was more like a calm, a clarity that arrived slowly, like the dawn. I understood something I should have understood years ago. I had confused love with total self-sacrifice. I had confused being a mother with disappearing. I had believed that loving my son meant I couldn't exist outside of him, and that had been my mistake, not Ryan's. Mine, because I had taught him without meaning to that my life had no value beyond him, that I wasn't a whole person. I was just a mother. And when he grew up, when he didn't need me anymore, he didn't know what to do with me, because I didn't know what to do with myself either. I got up, I went to my room, I opened the closet, and I pulled out a box I had stored in the back under old sheets and clothes I no longer wore. It was a cardboard box worn out, the corners bent. Inside were things I hadn't seen in years: letters, photographs, diplomas, my university diploma, the one I earned when I was 22 before Ryan was born, a degree in education. I had been a teacher, a good teacher. I loved teaching. I loved watching children learn, grow, discover the world. But when Ryan was born, I quit teaching because the hours didn't let me take care of him, because I needed jobs with more flexibility, even if they paid less. And little by little, I stopped being Isabella the teacher. I became Isabella the mother, and then Isabella the mother who cleans offices, and finally, Isabella the mother who embarrasses. But that night, looking at that diploma, I remembered something. I had existed before Ryan, and I could exist after him, not against him, not without him, but not only for him either. I stayed awake all night, not crying, not thinking about the graduation, thinking about me. When had I stopped thinking about me? When had I stopped having my own dreams? When had I decided that my life only had value if my son valued me? At dawn, I made a decision. I was not going to call Ryan. I was not going to beg him to love me. I was not going to demand explanations. I was not going to fight for a place in his life that he clearly no longer wanted to give me. But I wasn't going to disappear either. I was going to do something I hadn't done in 20 years. I was going to live for me. The next few days were strange. Ryan didn't call. I didn't call him. It was the first time in years we had gone so many days without talking. Before, that would have destroyed me. I would have spent my nights wide awake, wondering if he was okay, if he missed me, if he needed anything. But now something had changed. I needed something too, and that something was to find myself. One morning, I opened my computer. I searched online for courses, workshops, opportunities for teachers who wanted to return to the classroom. I found a pedagogical update program. It was free, offered by the Department of Education. It lasted 3 months, and at the end, they helped you find a job in a public school. I signed up. When I submitted the form, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Excitement. Not for Ryan, not for anyone else. For me. I also did something else. Something that was harder. I took the watch out of its box. The watch I'd bought with so much love. The watch engraved with a message Ryan would never read. And I took it back to the jewelry store. The man who had helped me the first time recognized me. "Mrs. Miller, what happened? Is something wrong with the watch?" "No, the watch is perfect, but I'd like to sell it back." He looked at me with sadness. "Did something happen?" I smiled. A sad smile, but a real one. "Let's just say things changed." He didn't ask any more questions. He gave me half of what I had paid, $160. It wasn't much, but it was something. With that money, I did something I had never done in my life. I bought myself new clothes. Not clothes to impress anyone. Not clothes to look presentable for Valerie's family. Clothes that I liked. Comfortable clothes. Clothes that made me feel like me. I bought 2 cotton blouses, a pair of pants, and some simple, nice flat shoes. And when I looked at myself in the store mirror for the first time in a long time, I didn't see an embarrassed mother. I saw a woman who had survived, who had given everything, who had lost, but who was still standing. 2 weeks passed. Ryan still hadn't called. I still hadn't reached out. But then one afternoon, I got a message from him. "Mom, I need to talk to you. Can we meet?" My first instinct was to say yes, of course, whenever he wanted. But I stopped myself. I took a deep breath, and I wrote, "I'm busy this week. How about next Saturday?" I sent it, and I waited. Ryan replied almost immediately. "Busy with what?" I smiled, because that question said it all. To him, it was inconceivable that I could be busy with anything other than him. I wrote, "I'm taking a course. I'll tell you about it later." He didn't reply again, and I didn't feel guilty. Saturday arrived. We agreed to meet at a cafe near my house. I arrived 10 minutes late, not because I wanted to make him wait, but because I was finishing homework for my course. When I walked into the cafe, Ryan was already there, sitting at a table in the back, alone. I walked over. He stood up. He gave me a kiss on the cheek. We sat down. There was an awkward silence. "How have you been, Mom?" "Good, busy." "So you said. What course are you taking?" "A pedagogical update course. I'm going back to teaching." Ryan blinked, as if he didn't understand me. "Teaching where?" "At an elementary school. I don't know which one yet, but I'm in the process. And your job? I'm going to quit. I don't want to clean offices anymore. I want to go back to doing what I loved." He looked at me as if he was seeing me for the first time. "I didn't know you wanted that." "I didn't either. Until recently." Another silence. "Mom, I wanted to apologize." I looked at him. I waited. "What I said to you on graduation day. It was wrong. I was cruel. And I'm sorry." "Are you sorry because it was cruel? Or are you sorry because you realized it was unfair?" Ryan looked down. "Both." "And what changed, Ryan? Why are you apologizing now?" He took a deep breath. Because Because Valerie made me see things differently. Valerie, yes. After graduation, we had a huge fight. She told me that what I did was horrible, that how could I leave you there alone after everything you did for me? She told me she saw me differently now, that she didn't like the person I was becoming. I stayed quiet, processing. And also, Mrs. Beatrice and I had a problem. What kind of problem? She expected me to start working on one of her projects right after graduation, practically for free. She said it was the least I could do after everything her family invested in me, and when I told her no, that I wanted to find my own path, she got very angry. She called me ungrateful, said that after everything they did for me, this is how I repay them. I stared at him. And that's when you understood. He nodded. His eyes were wet. That's when I understood that you never asked me for anything in return. You never expected me to pay you back. You never put conditions on me. You just loved me. And I treated that love like it was a burden. I felt something inside me soften, but not completely. The pain was still there. Ryan, I accept your apology, but I need you to understand something. What? I can't keep living my life waiting for you to value me. I can't keep being that mother who is always available, always waiting, always sacrificing, because that's not healthy. Not for me, and not for you. I know, Mom. I love you. I will always love you, but I need to live my own life. I need to be Isabella, not just your mom. He nodded. Tears were running down his face now. I understand, and I need you to respect that. I will, I promise. And don't promise me, Ryan. Just show me. We sat there in silence, a different silence. Less heavy. Ryan wiped his tears. Can we try again, Mom? Start over, but differently. We can try, but slowly, slowly, he repeated. I paid for my coffee. I stood up. I have to go. I have class in an hour. Can I call you this week? You can. But if I don't answer, don't worry. I'm not living by the phone anymore. He smiled, a sad smile, but he understood. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. I walked out of the cafe. I walked down the street feeling the sun on my face. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel empty. I didn't feel less than, because my son hadn't chosen me that day. I felt complete, because I had chosen me, and I understood something that changed everything. Justice doesn't always come as revenge. Sometimes it comes as freedom, as letting go, as living, as understanding that true love doesn't require you to destroy yourself to prove it. I had done my part. I had loved. I had given. I had sacrificed. And now it was time for someone else to love me. Myself. Life has a strange way of balancing things. It's not always fast, it's not always obvious, but it always arrives. I didn't seek revenge. I didn't need it, because I had understood something fundamental. True justice isn't about making the other person suffer. It's about living so well that their opinion of you stops mattering. And that's exactly what I did. 6 months passed after that coffee with Ryan. 6 months in which my life changed in ways I never imagined. I finished the teaching program. I was at the top of my class. Not because I was smarter than the others, but because I had something they didn't. Hunger. Hunger to be me again. Hunger to prove to myself that I still could. I was offered a position at a public elementary school downtown. It wasn't a luxury school. It wasn't private like the one Ryan went to, but it was a good school, with good kids, and with a principal who valued his teachers. My first day as a teacher after 20 years, I cried. I cried when I saw my name on the classroom door. Ms. Isabella Miller, 3rd grade. I cried when the children came in with their big backpacks and curious faces. I cried when a little girl with huge eyes asked me, "Are you our teacher?" "Yes, sweetie, I'm your teacher. And are you going to love us?" I smiled. "With all my heart, I'm going to love you very much." And I did, because now I knew how to love without disappearing, how to give without emptying myself, how to be important in someone's life without ceasing to be important in my own. My salary as a teacher was better than what I earned cleaning offices, not by much, but it was enough to live with dignity, enough to save a little, enough for the first time in years to buy myself something without feeling guilty. I bought a plant, a small green resilient succulent. I put it in my living room window, and every morning when I watered it, it reminded me of myself. I can also bloom, even after the drought. Ryan and I kept in touch, but it wasn't like before. He didn't call 3 times a day. He didn't expect me to drop everything for him, and I no longer expected to be the center of his life. We saw each other once a month, sometimes at a cafe, sometimes at a park. We talked, like 2 people getting to know each other again, like 2 people learning to love each other without getting hurt. He told me about his job. He had found a position at an engineering firm, not thanks to Mrs. Beatrice, thanks to his own effort. "I'm doing well, Mom," he told me one day. "I'm not making a lot yet, but I like what I do. I'm happy for you, son. And Valerie and I are good. Better than before." "Why better?" He smiled, a little embarrassed. "Because she made me see a lot of things. She made me realize I was acting like a spoiled brat, like someone who only thought about himself. Valerie is a good woman. She is, and she told me something that really stuck with me." "What did she say?" "She said, if you treat your mother like that, how are you going to treat me when things get tough?" I stayed quiet, because those words were wiser than I expected from a 25-year-old. "She's right," I said finally. "I know, and that's why I'm trying to be better, not just with you, with myself." I looked at him, and I saw something different in his eyes, something I hadn't seen in a long time: humility. "I'm proud of you, Ryan. Not for your degree, not for your job, for this, for trying to be better." He smiled, and for the first time in months that smile was genuine. But while my relationship with Ryan was slowly healing, something else was happening, something I didn't look for, something that just happened. Mrs. Beatrice was paying the price for her arrogance. I found out from Ryan. One afternoon during one of our talks, he told me with a mix of discomfort and relief, "Mom, I have to tell you something about Mrs. Beatrice." "What happened?" "Well, it turns out her foundation is in trouble. Serious trouble." "What kind of trouble?" "Legal. Tax problems. Apparently there were irregularities in how she handled donations. I'm not sure of all the details, but there's an investigation open, and her reputation is on the floor." I stayed quiet. I didn't feel joy, but I didn't feel pity either. "And how is she?" "Well, not good. Valerie says her mom is extremely stressed. She's lost friends. A lot of the people who used to flatter her now turn their backs on her." "And how do you feel about that?" Ryan sighed. "Honestly, Mom, I feel relieved, because now I understand that she didn't help me out of generosity. She helped me because she wanted control. She wanted me to owe her. She wanted me to be her project, her success story to show off at her events. And when you didn't do what she expected, she got angry. She felt betrayed, as if I had stolen something from her. Love isn't something you pay for, Ryan, and it's not something you charge for." "I know, Mom. I know that now." Weeks passed, and stories about Mrs. Beatrice started coming from different places. A fellow teacher who knew someone who had worked with the foundation told me, "Did you hear about Mrs. Smith? The one with that famous foundation? Turns out she was using donation money to pay for her trips, her dinners, her personal expenses, all disguised as administrative costs. Now they're auditing her. It looks like she's going to have to pay back a lot of money, or face charges." I said nothing, but I thought, life always collects its debts. Another time at the supermarket, I heard two ladies talking. "Did you hear about Beatrice Smith, the one who was always running around organizing charity events? Turns out it was all just for show, all image, and now nobody wants anything to do with her." "Oh yes, I saw her at the bank the other day. She looked finished. She wasn't wearing her pearl necklaces. She didn't have that air of superiority. That's what happens. Those who show off the most often have the least." I kept walking. I didn't stop. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. But the story didn't end there. One day, months later, Ryan called me. His voice sounded different, serious. "Mom, can I come see you?" "Of course, honey. Is something wrong?" "Yeah, something happened, but I'd rather tell you in person." He arrived at my apartment an hour later. He brought a bag of sweet bread, like he used to when he was a kid visiting me. We sat at the kitchen table. I made coffee. "Tell me, son, what happened?" Ryan took a deep breath. "Mom, I saw Mrs. Beatrice." "Where?" "At the hospital. Valerie asked me to go with her to visit." "Is she sick?" "Not exactly. Well, yes, but not physically. She's unwell, emotionally. After everything that happened with the foundation, after losing her reputation, after so many of her friends turned their backs, she had a breakdown, a severe nervous breakdown. They admitted her for a few days to stabilize her." I felt something in my chest. Not joy, but not sadness. "And how is she now?" "She's back home, but Mom, when I saw her, I didn't recognize her. She's not the same woman. She doesn't have that confidence, that arrogance. She just looked small, empty, lost." "And what did she say to you?" "She didn't say much, but when she saw me, she just started crying. She asked me to forgive her. She said she had been selfish, that she had used my gratitude to feel important, that she understands now that everything she built was false, that she never had real friends, just people who wanted something from her, and now that she has nothing to offer, she's alone." I sat quietly, thinking, feeling. "And what did you say to her?" I told her I forgave her, but I also told her that we wouldn't have the relationship she expected, that I needed my own path. "You did the right thing, son." Ryan looked at me. Mom, when I left the hospital, I thought about you. I thought about everything you went through, and I realized something. What? Mrs. Beatrice was always afraid of being alone. That's why she tried to buy people's affection. That's why she helped me. She wanted to feel like someone owed her, like someone wouldn't leave her. And I fell for it. Because I thought her help was love, but it wasn't. It was a transaction. And what did I give you, Ryan? He looked at me, his eyes wet. Love, real love, unconditional, expecting nothing in return. Those words hit me deep, but I didn't cry. I didn't need to cry anymore. Thank you for saying that, son. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I didn't deserve it. We sat there in silence, drinking our coffee. A warm, healing silence. And I understood something that brought me peace. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it comes in the form of truth, in the form of natural consequences, in the form of a well-deserved loneliness. Mrs. Beatrice wasn't destroyed by me. She was destroyed by her own actions, by her arrogance, by her need for control, by her inability to love without conditions. And I didn't have to do anything. I just had to live. I had to let go. I had to choose myself, and life did the rest. Ryan once called me crazy. He once told me I embarrassed him, and for a long time those words cut me like knives. But now, years later, I saw that same emptiness in Mrs. Beatrice's eyes, that same loneliness she feared so much as she sat alone in that hospital, surrounded by luxury but with no real love. And here I was, in my small apartment, with my teaching job, with my plants, with my peace. And I wasn't alone, because I finally had me. Life always collects its debts. And it pays its debts too. I received what I sowed, true love, even if it took time to come back. And she received what she sowed, emptiness, because she never learned to give without expecting. I didn't feel joy at her fall, but I did feel peace. The peace of knowing I had done things right, that I had loved completely, that I had given unconditionally, and that in the end was worth it. Because true love is always worth it, even when it hurts. Even when it's not returned right away. Because true love doesn't need applause. It doesn't need recognition. True love simply remains, and I remained. There are stories we keep inside for years. Stories that weigh on us. Stories that hurt. Stories that if we don't tell them, consume us from within. This was one of those stories. Today, as I tell you all this, 2 years have passed since that graduation day. 2 years since I heard those words that broke me. Mom, you embarrass me. 2 years in which my life has changed in ways I never imagined. Ryan and I have a different relationship now. It's not the relationship I dreamed of when he was a child, not that inseparable mother-son bond you see in movies, but it's real, it's honest, and it's healthy. We see each other once or twice a month, sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends on our schedules, because yes, I have a schedule now too. I have a life that doesn't just revolve around him, and that paradoxically has brought us closer, because now when we see each other, it's because we both want to. Not because I need to, not because he feels obligated to. It's because we choose each other. 3 months ago, Ryan and Valerie got married. It was a small, intimate wedding in a beautiful garden upstate. It wasn't the big, flashy wedding Valerie's family had originally planned, because after everything that happened with Mrs. Beatrice, a lot of things changed in that family too. Valerie invited me personally. She came to my apartment one Saturday afternoon with an envelope in her hands. "Isabella, I want you to come to our wedding," she said, her eyes sincere. "And I want you to know, I've always admired you, from the beginning." I was surprised. "Really?" "Yes. When I first met Ryan, he would tell me stories about how you two grew up, about how you worked 2 shifts so he could study, about how he never lacked for anything. And I used to think, what a strong mother. I didn't always feel strong. But you were, even if you didn't feel it. And I want you to know, I never agreed with what happened at graduation. I told Ryan he was making a huge mistake, but he wouldn't listen to me, not until it was too late. Thank you for telling me that, Valerie. And I also want to apologize. For my mom, for everything she did, for everything she said. You don't have to apologize for her. I know, but I want to, because she hurt you, and that wasn't right. We hugged, and in that hug, I felt something I didn't expect, a connection, an alliance, between 2 women who had learned each in her own way that true love cannot be bought or imposed. On the wedding day, I wore a new dress, one I had bought with my own salary. It was sky blue, simple but elegant. I wore my mother's silver brooch, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I no longer saw the shamed woman who was rejected in an auditorium. I saw a whole woman, a woman who had learned to love herself. I arrived at the wedding. The place was beautiful. White flowers everywhere, chairs decorated with linen ribbons, a long table with homemade food prepared by Valerie's grandmother. Ryan saw me arrive. He walked over. He hugged me. A long, strong, sincere hug. "Thanks for coming, Mom." "Thanks for inviting me, son. There's something I want you to see." He led me toward the altar. There was a special display on one of the tables, a large picture frame with several photographs, and there in the center was a picture of me, a picture from when Ryan was 5 years old. He was sitting on my lap with a huge smile and I was hugging him. Underneath the photo was a small plaque. It said, "To Isabella, the strongest woman I know, thank you for teaching me the true meaning of love. Your son, Ryan." I felt the tears come, but this time they were different. They weren't tears of pain, they were tears of healing. "I wanted everyone to know who you are, Mom, who you've always been. Thank you, son." "No, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on me, for loving me even when I didn't deserve it." We hugged again, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: wholeness. The wedding was beautiful. During the ceremony, Ryan and Valerie read their vows. And when Ryan spoke, he said something that stayed with me. "Valerie, I want to be the kind of husband that my mother taught me to be. Someone who loves unconditionally. Someone who gives without expecting. Someone who stays even when it's hard." He looked over to where I was sitting, because that's what my mom did for me. And it took me a long time to understand it, but I understand it now, and I want to honor that love in the way I love you. People applauded. I cried, but this time with a smile. After the ceremony during dinner, Valerie's grandmother sat next to me. "You're Ryan's mother, aren't you?" "Yes, ma'am. I've heard a lot about you. My granddaughter Valerie admires you very much. She's a wonderful woman." "Yes, she is, and she has a good heart, like you. That's why I think you two are going to get along just fine." I smiled. "I hope so." The grandmother looked at me with those wise eyes that only women who have lived a long time have. "You know, I was a single mother too. I raised 3 children on my own. I worked selling tamales in the market for 30 years. My children were ashamed of me. They said I smelled like corn dough, that my hands were ugly, that I wasn't like the other moms." I stayed quiet listening. But later when they grew up, when they had their own children, they understood. They understood that those ugly hands fed them, that the smell of corn was the smell of love, and they came to ask my forgiveness, one by one. "And did you forgive them?" "Of course I did, because that's what mothers do. We forgive, not because we're foolish, but because we know that true love doesn't hold grudges." She took my hand. "Your son understands now, dear. Give him time, but he understands." That night when I got back to my apartment, I sat at the kitchen table. I lit a candle, and I wrote. I wrote down everything I had held inside for these 2 years, all the pain, all the learning, all the love. I wrote this story because I understood that my story isn't just mine. It's the story of thousands of women. Women who give everything, women who sacrifice, women who love unconditionally, and who sometimes, just sometimes, are forgotten, rejected, shamed. But in the end, we always remain, because that is our strength, not the recognition, not the applause, not the gold plaques. Our strength is the capacity to love even when it hurts, the capacity to forgive even when we are wounded, the capacity to rise even when we are torn down. Today, when I look back, I no longer see that graduation day with pain. I see it with clarity, because that day wasn't the day my son rejected me. It was the day I woke up, the day I understood that I couldn't keep living for someone else, that I needed to live for myself. And thanks to that awakening today, I have a life that fulfills me, a life that is mine. I have my job as a teacher. And every day when I walk into that classroom and see the little faces of my students, I feel like I'm doing what I was born to do, to teach, to love, to guide, but without disappearing. I have my plants, my small but cozy apartment, my friends, the other teachers who have become my chosen family. I have my peace. And yes, I also have my son, but in a different way, a healthier way, a way where we can both exist as whole people, not as two halves desperately needing each other to survive, but as two human beings who choose each other, respect each other, and love each other. Mrs. Beatrice eventually recovered from her breakdown, but her life changed forever. She lost her foundation. She lost her reputation. She lost many of the people she thought were her friends. But according to what Valerie told me, she also gained something: humility. She learned the hard way that love cannot be bought, that respect cannot be imposed, that true wealth isn't in bank accounts or social events. It's in the people who stay, even when you have nothing left to offer. I hold no grudge against her, because I understood that she was also just a scared woman, a woman who confused control with love, a woman who never learned to give without expecting something in return, and that in the end was her prison, while I, who gave everything expecting nothing, received the most valuable thing of all, peace. If you ask me if I would do it all over again, if knowing how it would end, I would sacrifice so much for my son again, the answer is yes. But with one difference. This time I wouldn't forget to love myself too. This time I wouldn't confuse self-sacrifice with self-destruction. This time I would understand from the beginning that being a good mother doesn't mean I stop being me. Because in the end, the best gift you can give your children isn't your entire life. It's teaching them how to live theirs. And that finally is what I learned. Today, 2 years after that graduation day that broke my heart, I can say with sincerity, I have no regrets. It hurt a lot, but that pain taught me something I had never learned: to value myself, to understand that my love has value, that my effort has value, that I have value, not because of what I do for others, but because of who I am. Isabella Miller, teacher, mother, woman, complete. And if my story helps just one woman to open her eyes, to understand that she can love without disappearing, to realize that her worth does not depend on the recognition of others, then everything, absolutely everything, will have been worth it. Because that's what we wise women do. We turn our pain into lessons, our wounds into wisdom, our tears into strength, and we move forward, not out of pride, but out of love, self-love, which is in the end the only love no one can ever take away from you. Thank you for listening to the end. Thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. If this story touched your heart, if you saw yourself reflected at any point, if you understood that you are not alone in this, then my purpose is fulfilled. Because I didn't share this story for you to feel sorry for me. I shared it so you would understand something fundamental. Never ever let anyone make you believe your love isn't valuable. Never let anyone take away your dignity. And never ever forget to love yourself first. Because if you don't, no one else will. Subscribe to Elderly Stories and activate the notification bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a new woman, a new life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change someone's whole day. God bless you, and until next time, with love, Isabella.